right at the beginning of Saul's reign as the first king in Israel, we get this sort of out-of-nowhere, offhand introduction to his son, who we've never heard of before, but apparently he is in charge of 1,000 men and he's a military leader in Israel. And immediately we're told that he attacks an outpost, a Philistine outpost at Geba. The problem is this is not a very good translation. He does not muster these 1,000 men that are behind him and attack an outpost. What the text more clearly says is that he strikes down a particular person, the prefect or the commander of an outpost at Geba. And that's important because it totally reframes this moment. This is not the beginning of an incursion or a battle between Israel and the Philistines. This is an assassination that Jonathan acts on. Now, is he sent there by his dad? Does he do this on his own? We don't really know, but that does change how we read the story that follows. Either Jonathan is sent in by his dad, a little spy craft, or he self-authorizes a hit on the guy who's in charge of the Philistine outpost. But that's important because what we read next is that all Israel heard the news. Saul has attacked the Philistines. That's normal. King gets the credit, just how it works. But then we read this. They heard that Israel had become obnoxious to her enemies. Now, obnoxious is an interesting choice here. The Hebrew word literally means smelly. So ironically, noxious would have been a much better translation here. You guys were so close. But what I'm interested in here is the social dynamic. Because obnoxious is not the right translation. Israel is not an annoyance. The implication here is that they have become somehow subhuman in the eyes of their enemy. The people heard that we have become like garbage to the Philistines. My question is, who are they hearing this from? Where is that narrative originating? I mean, it's Israel that orders a largely unprovoked hit on the Philistine leader. I tend to doubt that this narrative is coming from Israelites having gentle conversations with their Philistine neighbors. It's far more likely this narrative is coming from the leadership of Israel. From Saul. This is what he's telling them. We attacked because this is what they think of you. Now, is it true? Maybe. I mean, we have seen there's a lot of hostility between these two people groups. We've been following it for weeks now. Maybe it's not an unreasonable assumption, but what I want you to see here is that the first story of Saul's era as king is about an assassination and an attempt to build a narrative to support it. They despise us. They think we're garbage. They hate us for our freedom. Okay, maybe that last one was a bit on the nose, but you get where I'm going with this, right? Saul has decided that as a new king and a new leader in charge, he needs to consolidate his power, and for that he needs a war, and for that he needs an enemy. And anytime anyone tries to convince you that they are the problem, because they hate you, because they think they're better than you, without allowing you to actually talk to them, or get to know them, or ask them what they really feel about things, that's the kind of leadership you should be very skeptical of. Do you remember that story in Luke 9 when Jesus and his disciples are traveling through a Samaritan village? And the people there who have a very legitimate beef with the Jewish people are not particularly kind to the disciples. And the disciples fill in a story about how much they hate them, and they turn to Jesus and they say, "Hey man, do you want us to call down fire from heaven and wipe out these clowns?" And Jesus says, "Do it." No, you don't remember that story because the disciples do ask Jesus about this, and he immediately turns around dumbfounded that they could even think that was acceptable to ask, and he rebukes them. And I think maybe this story, at least part of it, is about the fact that someone should have been there to do that for Saul. No, maybe the Philistines don't think we're subhuman. Maybe they're just upset that we assassinated their leader. Hey, thanks for making it through to the end of that. If you're interested in what we're doing here at Commons, then give us a subscribe, a like, all of that stuff. And by all means, post a comment and we'll continue the discussion there. You can also join our Discord for the ongoing dialogue here in our community. Anyway, have a great week. We'll see you soon.